And as you can see, assistant coach Daryl Prue pinch hitting for Coach Morton here, getting his camera lined up and ready to go. Trying to get it all situated as he joins us here on the program. Daryl Prue won, and we interviewed him early in the season, one of the best college basketball players coming out of the state of West Virginia. One of West Virginia's best joining us here on the program. Coach, we appreciate you pinch hitting for Coach
Oh
Morton here on
yeah,
the
I had to stay behind because I wasn't feeling well this weekend. So they went to Florida, so I stayed behind, and he asked me to do the show. I love doing these shows.
All right. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. Well, we can start with the happy stuff and we can start with the not so happy. Let's start the way we do it. Let's start with the first game
Um,
on Saturday, taking on the best team in the conference, Bethune-Cookman. What a basketball game, and the way it ended got a lot of play on social media, handing Bethune-Cookman their second loss. And just coming off that Valley Pine Bluff swing, winning at Mississippi Valley, you felt like you had some momentum. And then, you play Bethune, and it's a game in which you trail by 14 early, and you find a way. Of course, we'll have that highlight of Shane Lancaster's bucket there. But just talk about coming home after splitting on the road with Valley and UAPB, and how you felt about the team coming off that trip.
I thought they were ready. They were really locked in all week. First time we played Bethune, we started off really bad, but we made a nice run at the end of the game. And we talked about if we play like that at the beginning of the game, we have a decent chance of winning that game. So I think um, once they got past the cobwebs or whatever being home, I think they locked in and they believing that you can win. I think that was the big thing for them.
When you talk about, and we've played well on the road, and we've had some hiccups on the road, but we've had some hiccups at home too. And we were on the road so much, didn't play a game until the third week in January, our first home game. Do you think, being at home, and we've lost two Monday night games at home, Grambling and of course last night, is a little bit different mindset, still trying to get that figured out, on these Monday night games, and especially playing at home because we haven't played as many games at home. I know you're scratching your head thinking what happened last night. You're scratching your head wondering what happened against Grambling coming off a big win over Southern University.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is, our numbers are low. We only have like 9 players. We started
Yeah.
off the year, we lose a couple players, you lose your depth. So that hurts a little bit. But some of the guys that's coming off the bench are playing well. But now we need people to be more consistent. I think we're not being consistent on the second day. Body a little banged up. They're at home. Um, Sometimes it's uncomfortable being home if you don't play many games at home. It's like a road game to them because when they had like 6 home games all year compared to the 20 we had on the road. So I think still trying to get used to the everyday life of being at home. Like on the road, you know what time you're gonna get up to do this. You know what time you're gonna go shoot around. You know what time you're gonna do this. Here at home, you gotta go to school first. You know what I mean? Then you go to shoot around. So I think it's like you said, just getting used to that second day, and then there's a 1 day prep for the game. So you got to do everything in one day. We have usually 2 or 3 days to get prepared for Saturday, but on that Monday game, you have 1 day, and that can be kind of hard if you're not really locked in.
But we were definitely locked in on the Bethune game. Let's start with that first. Reggie Theus's ball club. You go back to that first meeting in Daytona. We were down by 23, cut it to 8, just like we were down 27 last night, and cut it to 7 late. I mean, we make runs at these things, but they were up 32-25, and the big story for Bethune, Dr. Bradley, and I looked at the 2 home games that they had, the Texas Southern Prairie View game against Texas Southern. They were down 13 and won it in overtime. Against Prairie View without Dr. Bradley, they only won by 6. And he was on the trip. He was at Alcorn and Jackson, but didn't play. We were told he was hurt. And you all scouted Bethune. We saw Bradley the first meeting. What difference does he make coming off the bench? Because he was a handful when he was at UAPB, one of the best scorers in the league a year ago. What difference does he make with him being on the floor and in the game for that Bethune team?
Well, you said it. He's a handful. He's a high major guy. He comes from a high major program. He's just bigger than everybody. He's stronger. He does what he he does. He doesn't try to shoot too many threes. He likes to get downhill. He likes to put pressure on you. He plays his game, and he's just another body for them. They so athletic and big and strong. Just having another guy to come off the bench just as good as your starters is a big key. I remember I was playing at West Virginia, and we played Duke my last year. They had Danny Ferry and Christian Laettner, and they came off the bench with Alan Abdenabi, another big guy, two more pros. I was like, good God Almighty, it's like it's just they just keep running waves at you, and I think that's what they do and wear you down. And again, they won two games without him, so it wasn't like it was going to be an easy game because they really have good players. So they have the six man Morris that come off the bench is a really good player. So we just stuck in there, stuck in there, stuck in there. We figured out how they played. We stopped what they like to do, and I think then we started hitting shots.
It was 32-25 Bethune-Cookman at the break, Coach. We trailed by as many as 14, cut it to 7. What was the spill in the locker room? I mean, we were halfway in it, down 14, cut that deficit in half at the half.
I don't think we played well uh, up until at the end of the half. We was getting things. I think we started driving it. I think started just shooting jump shots. We recognized they didn't have no shot blockers, so we told them get in the lane, get in the lane. They don't have no shot blockers. Their weak side defense was a little off. But we in there, we just played. We started working. Some of it was just 50-50 plays, meaning that there was a play out there to be made. We made it. So and I think that helps our team gets going. So, but we have to do that all the time. We just can't do it when we losing.
I see Tyson McDaniel. He probably leads the conference in dunks. He gets an average of a couple of dunks a game. As a big man yourself, and I know we're kind of thin on the front line. You got Amari Hamilton that kind of backs him up. Player that we had no longer is on the team, and now Jeremy Ellis is getting more and more minutes. What do you see in Tyson McDaniels and trying to keep him in the game because we're so much better when he's on the floor?
Yeah, just trying to keep him out of foul trouble. He has those old bad habits of reaching down because he's not as big or strong as the other guys, and just walling up, keeping his hands straight up in the air. Sometimes he like to swipe down. Sometimes playing these guys, just playing solid. If they score, don't worry about it. What I mean? Then you just play defense or play offense the next time. Uh, don't worry about going back. Sometimes these guys get in the personal thing. They get to talking to each other, so they try to show each other up. And once he keeps a level head and he starts to get going, like you said, we play well, especially when we throw it to him early. And he starts scoring early for us in a lot of these games. Um, trying to figure out what he likes to do. When I first got here, trying to figure out what he likes to do, trying to teach him some other things, and he's starting to put it all together. He asks a lot of questions. Every time in the timeout, he come to me, what you think, we got to do better, and even in a scout. So he always trying, he's a smart kid. He's always trying to figure it out.
One of 3 holdovers from last year, as well as Davion Williams and Amari Hamilton and Tyson McDaniels, the 3 from last year's ball club. All right, Coach, we were down 14 in the first half. We were down by as many as 11 in the second half. How did the comeback start against the best team in the conference? Did it start on the defensive end, you felt, or did it start on the offensive end?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think we are very good when we hit shots. When we hit shots, our defense gets better. But then Davion, like you talked about Davion has a lot of pride, and he gets very angry when we start losing. And all of a sudden, you see his intensity picks up. And I think the team feeds off of that very well. And once we start getting stops and we hit a shot or two, then now it's like a boiling water. We just keep bubbling, bubbling, and bubbling. But we have to start at the beginning of games like that.
I got the impression, Coach, that we settled it down after being down 14, and you could tell in the second half we were getting that train rolling. We are getting stops and knocking down shots. The perfect storm. What's your definition? You've been in a lot of basketball games. You played a lot of basketball. You've been in games. You've been up 20 and lose. You've been in games in which you've been down 20 and come back to win. What's the perfect storm of a comeback when you're down like that? We were down 14. We were down 23, cut it to 8. What's the perfect storm of a comeback when you're down like that?
You got to watch the guys how they respond to it. I think we do a good job of being excited but being level-headed. When they come to the bench, they talking to each other, they helping each other out, they talking to each other what they seeing. I think getting stops and getting a couple of turnovers here and there. I think Jamil Morris does a good job of dogging the ball, and he gets a few turnovers that get everybody going. And now everybody has to lock in. You can't have one guy playing defense and four guys watching. And then the offense, the ball starts to move in different. People driving, kicking it, and they're kicking it again. And we get an open three, or we get a drive and get a dunk like what Tyson has been doing a lot lately. And been finding him around the rim. So it's like like the perfect storm is a little bit of everything that's coming together.
Well, Bethune-Cookman, coach, led 55-53 with 4.5 minutes left. And so we know what happened down the stretch. Talk a little bit about that final play. First of all, I think the basketball gods were on our side. It came down to a ball getting stuck between the glass and the rim, which is a dual possession, and we had the
Right.
arrow. Who knows if that ball doesn't get stuck? Who knows? We might still come up with it. We might not.
Right.
But it was a dual possession, and we had the arrow, so we got the ball. And so just talk about the huddle there, just trying to draw up something in the final seconds.
Yeah, we got a. I don't know if you remember, we got a play off against them late in the game at Bethune when Shane came off and hit the jump shot. We had it again, but there was a slip that we missed. I think anything we ran, the coach drew up a really good play. I think anything we would have run would have worked. I didn't think they were a very good defensive team, especially the middle. So I think everything we ran and what we wanted to get done, because we was in such a rhythm offensively now, and and all five guys on the floor can score. So we get it in. So we just play right here. Everybody's moving. We get the ball. We attack. You miss it. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry, I'm watching the clip. So we do a good job of keep fighting. Yeah, I gotta be watching the clip. We made that play, the game would have been over, but you know how it goes. Like you said, the basketball guys was working us. But like again, the basketball guys did help us on a tie up, but we got the ball back and we made it. And we made the most of the opportunity. And a lot of those times, this it's about opportunities and what you make of them.
Well, for those that are watching, they are milking the clock here. It's 25 seconds left. And, just talk about trying to D up right here as they're trying to get off a shot late in the clock.
I think this hurt them more than it helped us, because what happened was they don't play slow, so they don't play slow. So then we run our play. That's the play we've been working on all year. We finally get a slip. You know what I mean? So we get the slip, then we get a stop.
Yeah.
Them running the clock like they did probably hurt them more than it hurt us, because they don't play slow. They like to play fast, like to get downhill, and then they got a little antsy. I think they could have got a better shot than that.
So the play on the slip. And I, for me, I was looking for us to get it on the wing and then take it to the basket.
Yeah,
that play
we run it. Yeah, so we run that play all the time, and we try to get Shane coming out. But I think there was a crease. They kind of fell asleep. They tried to play the play, and I think they fell asleep. And Shane found an opening, but the beauty of it was the pass, because you got to see it. Sometimes you just run a play to run a play. You got to see how it opens up. That the first guy opens up the first guy. Then when Shane comes in, he's wide open. So they didn't play him. And he's very good around the basket making buckets.
We got the lead, and then they came back a 40-footer, and I'm looking at the referees and making sure that we don't have a repeat of the Texas Southern situation. And even Shane said he's looking around to make sure that everything is decent and in order there, because we know what happened early in the season in a game in the final seconds.
Yeah, that was the worst. They walked off the floor, and the coach chased them down. And I don't have a problem them saying they won the game, but you can't call the game, then walk off, and then come back and try to look at the clock. You can't. That's too much.
That's a whole nother conversation. People are still talking about it. And even the game last night, Southern Texas Southern in the final seconds, there was a call there made in the final half a second of that game. Texas Southern makes a couple of free throws. Some people, I saw some of the last half a second, and I'll just leave it alone. But clearly, it's been some interesting calls down the stretch in some of these games. But look, a great win. Coming back from 14 down and finding a way at home, a big home win. I know the locker room was excited. I know Coach Morton was excited. How did you feel, and just how we managed that game, found a way against the best team in the conference?
Um, I look at it as we're getting ready for the tournament, and everybody's beatable. And if we can beat these teams now, why can't we beat them later? And that's what I think I've been talking to some coaching friends around the league and stuff like that, and we've been in every game. You know what I mean? So, you know, shots here, shots there. Like yesterday, and at one point of the game, we was 1 for 9 from the field, from the 3-point line. That's not like us. We hit 4 for the whole game. So imagine if we'd have hit more shots earlier. You know what I mean? So I think us getting ready for the tournament, I think that helps give us confidence playing these guys. I don't know what happened yesterday as far as confidence, but just I think at the end of the day, when we go to Atlanta, I think we'll be ready.
Well, I hate to bring up last night, but that's kind of what we unfortunately have to do, and we are going to do it. 86-78 FAMU. And man, the team that I saw on Saturday was a totally different team last night. Was it more so FAMU, or was it not enough Alcorn?
Definitely not enough Alcorn. It was a little bit FAMU, but it was definitely more Alcorn. I think the energy, the preciseness, the attention to detail was off for some reason. Like we only scored 29 points the first half. So I think when guys miss shots, they kind of get down on themselves instead of just keep fighting through. But that's a part of the game that we have to get by. But I just thought it was just we couldn't figure out what to do, how to get them going, and then they get down on themselves. And then when they get down on themselves, it's hard to get them out of it. And then they get all of a sudden, then it changes. You talk about Jeremy. Jeremy came in, gave us a little lift, blocked a few shots. Champ comes in and Bryson comes in and makes some plays. So we got to get more of that early on than wait till late in the second half.
Yeah, we were down by 10, and you could just tell Coach had to burn a couple of timeouts. And as it turns out, he burned the final timeout of the game with 9 minutes left. But you could just tell right off the bat. And sometimes you play your way through it, and you get a little glimmer of hope. I think the Bethune game was one of those games in which you had a glimmer of hope that you can see that, okay, we're making a run at it here. Just hold the fort a little bit and continue to climb. But last night you just didn't get that sense until we were down 27, and next thing you know, we're down 8, but just ran out of time and didn't have any timeouts.
Yeah.
That second half, coach, just talk about that, and getting down 27 only to find a way to battle back, and the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. I mean, if we had
Yeah.
timeouts left, if we had a couple more timeouts, what difference you think that would have made in terms of slowing them down and us trying to execute and get something better down the stretch?
I think it kind of helped us because I think they used their timeouts because when we started making a run, they started calling timeouts. I think,
Yeah.
nobody talked about it, but we had a couple guys that have been sick all week. And I think playing 2 back-to-back tough games like that probably kind of wore them down. I know Nick has been sick. Amari's been sick. Amari didn't play well. Um, Even I got sick this weekend, so it was like it was just maybe some of that was lingering around the team, and we didn't have no lift, and then we go back to numbers. We don't have 9 guys. You know what I mean? So um, playing two tough games on a Saturday and a Monday, it's really tough. But, I think, again, then their pride kicked in. Then their pride kicked in. They didn't want to lose bad at home, and they didn't want to show up like that. And there was something they started, and we had a conversation with them. And at one point, I think it was like 11 minutes, we was down 11. I was like, we can't get it all back in one time. It's one play at a time. So they started doing one play at a time. And everybody's just not throwing up shots. And they started playing one play at a time, one play at a time, one play at a time. But I just think, our bodies start getting in foul trouble. So it's just, we just sometimes run out of bodies. You got, people who's not feeling well, trying to come in. They're not as strong as they were, but they trying. So it's just a mixture of a lot of different things.
Yeah, the Braves played with a lot of heart. Got 9 available bodies, 5 players in double figures last night. Morris with 15, 14 for Nick Woodard, 13 for Shane Lancaster, Tyson with 11, and Bryson Calamise with 10. So with that being said, Coach, with 9 players, everybody has to contribute in some shape, form, or fashion. And I think this team has been able to weather that storm throughout the course of conference play.
Yeah, Shane, but Shane didn't score until the end. If Shane would have scored earlier, I think it would have loosened everybody else up. Excuse me, it would loosen everybody else up. But we need 4 or 5 guys to score. Even a couple more guys off the bench at least hit 8 and 9 points. Because like you said, we only have 9, so we don't have a 20-point score. You know what I mean? So if we had a 20-point score, it would be a little different, but we don't. So we have to have a balanced scoring team.
Talk about the disappointment in the locker room, Coach. I mean, it was just another tough home Monday night loss. I mean, it kind of
Yeah.
reminded me, unfortunately, of Grambling all over again. Big win over Southern, your big rival, beat the number 1 team, and then on Monday night at home, another tough loss.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. But we didn't dwell on it too much. We talked more about playing hard from the beginning, the details of playing hard all the time. Um, but at the end of the day, we have to move on because we have Jackson coming in, and that's going to be a big game. So, um, but you gotta learn from it, and we gotta keep learning from these games where we start off late. We can't do that at home, especially at home. We should have more energy at home than especially we don't have a few of them, a few home games.
We are talking with assistant coach Daryl Prue, pinch hitting for Jake Morton here. So, Coach, folks trying to get to know you and the staff. We've done interviews. I've interviewed each and every one of you, the staff. Just talk about you coming to Alcorn. This is the first time that people get a chance to look at you and talk to you. And just talk a little bit about your road to Alcorn and how you and Jake Morton hooked up and how you wound up here at Alcorn State University.
When I was coaching high school, I coached in college, a while ago, about 10 years ago. I coached at Morgan State. I coached at Georgetown. I was trying to get back in for a long time, then I stopped. And a friend of mine passed away. You might know him, Lawrence Moten, played at Syracuse University, the legend Lawrence Moten. A friend of mine called me and was asking about him. So we got to talk, and he said, Jake has a job here at Alcorn. I didn't know. I've been knowing Coach Morton since he was in high school. He was a young guy when I was coming up. And he said, call him. So I called him, and 2 days later, I was about to be on my way down here. It was just my first time in Mississippi. I knew about the SWAC because I played in the MEAC, or coached in the MEAC. It's a very respectable league. Actually, I think I applied here a couple of times because my application resume was already in. I just had to renew it. So that's the funny part. I've already applied
You're
here,
already in the
so
system.
I was already in the system.
Okay.
So it was one of the places I applied to when I was trying to get back in before.
Yeah. But just talk about coming here and just meeting the Braves Nation and talking with folks. You've seen the energy at the home games. We'd like to get a couple more wins at home, but clearly a lot of folks love it playing at the Whitney Arena with the legend, of course, the late great Davy Whitney, the building named after him. What's your knowledge of the SWAC? And you kind of mentioned how competitive this league is, and just what are your feelings on that?
Um, A lot of my friends knew a lot of the older gentlemen that was before me. They knew a lot about Alcorn State. It was just they were telling me about how good this team, how athletic these teams used to be back in the '70s. Because I played in the late '80s. They were telling me how these teams were so good and they're athletic. And then I come down here and you meet all the people, and met all the people when I was coming to the football games, and they were excited. People are, even when you go to Jackson, there's a lot of Alcorn fans there. Um, we had Alcorn fans everywhere we went. We had some in D.C., we had some in Florida. It's in Alabama and Arkansas. So it's like, it's like a family. I think it's more like a family school. It's like I love how the school sits by itself and is about the students. Um, and that's like you have Howard, which is in the city, and Morgan State is in the city. But I like this more cozy atmosphere because you don't get the outside noise and kids can concentrate on being students. Um, I love the history. Always looking at banners and just to see and talk to Baker and some other people that come back and talk, just to get the plug, just to listen how things were and stuff like that. I think I think this job is a gold mine. Um, we have the fans. I think once we start winning more, we start having more home games. I think uh, the atmosphere would be so much more. I love the band. Um, it's funny. The girls' coach, I think he went to Mississippi Valley State as a player.
Yeah, Nate Kilbert. Yep.
So, yeah. So my friend, they did a celebration for him when we played Mississippi Valley State, and they was talking about
Yep.
that 1986 team that played Duke. Do you know I was at that game? I was at West Virginia. We was about to play Old Dominion the next game, and I was sitting behind the basket. I was listening to the band play, and they were playing Johnny Dawkins and them. And it was it was a great game. It was going back and forth, going back and forth. And I was like, man, I want to go to a black school. I want to leave West Virginia. I said, I want to go to a black school. They partying. I was like, oh yeah, this is nice. And Johnny Dawkins came down and dunked it backwards, and the game was over. I was like, man, this is a nice atmosphere. When I saw them, I got it so excited. I started talking to all the players. It just is. My grandfather went to. He used to work at Howard, so especially in the '80s for us, the history was big for us, and I love the history of especially the HBCUs.
Yeah, the great, really good story. And yeah, Nate Kilbert was honored when we played at Valley a couple of weeks ago. Of course, the late great Lafayette Stribling was the coach, and George Ivory, who's the head coach, was his teammate at Mississippi Valley. A lot of history. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. All right, Coach, we've got Jackson State coming up. Deshaun Ruffin looking at the game against Bethune. Ruffin had missed the last couple of games. I understand he had the flu, but he had 28 last night, and he had 32 in the first meeting back on January the 3rd, and we slowed him down in the second half. I mean, he was due for a big night, still did. But what do we have to do this second go round? Because Jackson State's kind of in the mix, and we're trying to bounce back and get back on track.
Yeah, I think we did a good job, especially in the second half again against him. He scored his points, but what we have to do is stop the other guys from scoring. I think in the first half he was spraying the ball around. He was knocking down shots. I think we just got to play solid defense. Solid defense. He's going to make shots, and we can't panic when he makes shots. Um, but we have to definitely lock down everybody else. Play with that kind of intensity we played in the second half against them. We cut it to 5 and just maintain that kind of intensity the whole game. I think we will. And then they only have one game that weekend. So I think these guys are going to lock in. Hopefully they're mad about this loss and they're really going to lock in. I know, uh, especially our guards, they were really focused, on playing him. So they're going to take turns guarding him. So they're going to have their hands full. He's a very good player, but the key is just controlling everybody else. Make sure they don't go beyond their averages.
Well, we trailed by as many as 17, and we led by 5 late, coach, and just couldn't quite put it away. I mean, they threw it over the top of, as we were guarding them, they threw it over the top. They got to the free throw line. So, that's definitely going to be, an important factor. What is going to be the key to get back on track? Is it Ruffin or knowing that he's going to get his, but as you mentioned, you got to slow down the others because
Mhm.
They have a really good core. You've got McMillan, you've got Reed, you've got Jamie Mitchell. Those guys can put the ball in the bucket. Is the key to
Yeah.
kind of slow these other guys down?
Yeah, I think, and that yeah, you got to slow all of everybody. You got Stephen Ruff. We have to slow him down too. But I think if we come to play and we moving the ball like we can, make them guard. You have to guard too. Like if we just go on to one person and that's the only person that's scoring, we have to move the ball around, and we get 4 or 5 guys scoring. I think that'll take away some of their scoring attributes too. Um, we got to be solid on defense. No second shots. Containing Ruffin. Not worried about stopping Ruffin. I don't think you stop him. I think you contain him. Make him take tough shots, contested shots, and not give him no fouls like we did at the end of the game. There was a lot of chippy fouls at the end, and he kept going to the free throw line. So I think if we just stay solid on him and everybody else, I think we'll be fine.
That's assistant coach Dale Prue pinch hitting for Jake Morton here on this Tuesday night. Coach, we appreciate it. Let's get back in the win column. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to a little bit of downtime this week, and we go to Texas next week. The schedule is going to really change. You got Thursday, Saturday games and Tuesday, Thursday games, and you got some time on the back end before you head to Atlanta. So let's get back on track.
Oh yeah, that's what we're working for. That's what we're working for.
Coach, we appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
That is assistant coach Dale Prue pinch hitting for Jake Morton here on this Tuesday night. Braves basketball, 1 o'clock against Jackson State here on the Braves Sports Network. We're working on Braves head football coach Cedric Thomas for a Thursday at 3:30 conversation. So we're still working through that, and we'll let you know when all that comes together. For our producers, Jamario Brooks, Cedric Tillman, Charles Edmond, as you see, assistant coach Dale Prue, Nate Kilburn. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll talk to you this weekend. So long.